Have you ever wondered how the great nation we know as the United States came to be? Let's take a step back, all the way to the year 1492, a time when the New World was only known to the natives who lived there. A daring Italian explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus embarked on a voyage that would change the course of history forever. Funded by the Spanish monarchy, Columbus set sail across the Atlantic in search of a new route to Asia. But instead of reaching Asia, he stumbled upon something entirely different, a vast, uncharted landmass. He'd found the New World. Columbus's discovery opened the floodgates for a wave of European explorers, each eager to stake their claim in this new world. But they were not alone. This land was already home to a diverse array of indigenous tribes, each with their own rich cultures and ways of life. The early interactions between these European settlers and the native people were a complex dance of cooperation and conflict. The settlers, awed by the richness and fertility of the land, established the first colonies. Jamestown in Virginia and Plymouth in Massachusetts were among the first to take root. However, the establishment of these colonies was not without its challenges. The settlers faced harsh winters, food shortages, and conflicts with the native people. Yet they persevered, driven by the promise of a new beginning in this new world. In these early colonies, the foundations were being laid for the future United States. The settlers brought with them their traditions, their hopes, and their dreams. They also brought their desire for freedom and self-governance, principles that would later become cornerstones of the American identity. And thus the seeds were sown for a nation that would become a global powerhouse. From these humble beginnings, a great nation began to take shape, a nation that would come to influence the course of world history in ways unimaginable to those early settlers. The story of the United States is a story of resilience, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of a dream. But this is just the beginning. Our journey through the history of the United States has only just started. The birth of the United States wasn't a simple process. It was born out of conflict and a desire for freedom. The seeds of the American Revolution were sown in the mid-18th century, when the 13 American colonies, then under British rule, began to chafe against the restraints of their distant overseers. The British Crown's relentless pursuit of tax revenue from the colonies was met with resistance, sparking a fiery desire for self-governance. This was a period of rising tension, of boycotts and protests, of a growing sense of unity among the colonies. Then came the year 1776, a year that would forever be etched in history. The Continental Congress, representing the united will of the colonies, made a bold move. They issued the Declaration of Independence, a powerful document that asserted their right to be free and independent states. Penned by Thomas Jefferson, it was a rallying cry for freedom, a declaration that they were no longer subjects of the British Crown. But declaring independence was one thing, achieving it was another. The Revolutionary War, a grueling conflict that spanned 8 long years, was the crucible in which the United States was forged. The colonies, now united in purpose, faced off against one of the most powerful empires in the world. In this struggle, figures emerged who would come to define the spirit of the young nation. Among them was George Washington, a military leader of strategic brilliance and unyielding determination. His leadership was instrumental in navigating the fledgling nation through the trials of war. The war was a test of endurance, of conviction, of the very ideals that the revolutionaries held dear. Battles were fought, lives were lost, but in the end, the United States emerged victorious. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 formally ended the conflict, recognizing the sovereignty of the United States. With the victory in the Revolutionary War, the United States of America was born. The nation had fought for its place in the world, and from the crucible of war, it had emerged as a beacon of freedom and democracy. The Revolutionary War was not just a war, it was a revolution in the truest sense, a turning point that paved the way for a new era of history. The United States, however, faced a major test of unity in the mid-19th century. This period of discord, known as the American Civil War, was a clash of ideologies that arose from differing views on slavery, economic policies, and state rights. The issue of slavery was a major spark that ignited the Civil War. Southern states, heavily reliant on enslaved labor for their agricultural economies, fiercely defended this institution. In contrast, northern states, increasingly industrial and less dependent on slavery, began advocating for its abolition. This fundamental difference in moral and economic perspectives led to a deep divide. Another cause was the economic disparities between the industrialized North and the agrarian South. The North's growing industrial economy was starkly different from the South's agricultural economy, leading to contrasting views on tariffs and trade policies. This economic divide further widened the chasm between the North and South. Finally, the question of state rights fueled the fire. Southern states believed in the sovereignty of states and their right to secede from the Union. The North, however, viewed secession as an act of rebellion against the federal government. The consequences of the Civil War were profound. The war ended slavery, fundamentally changing the social fabric of the nation. It also reinforced the power of the federal government over the states, setting a precedent for future governance. Following the Civil War, the country embarked on a period known as Reconstruction. This was a time of rebuilding, both physically and socially. New laws and amendments were introduced to protect the rights of former enslaved people and to rebuild the Southern economy. However, the period was fraught with challenges, including racial tensions and political conflicts. The Civil War and Reconstruction were a turning point, defining the nation's future direction. This era reshaped the United States, setting the stage for the nation's growth into a global powerhouse. It was a testament to the resilience of the American spirit, a spirit that would continue to guide the country through future challenges and triumphs. The United States was on the verge of becoming a global powerhouse. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the country was in the throes of the Industrial Revolution. This period of rapid industrial growth and technological innovation fundamentally transformed the United States. Cities burgeoned as factories sprung up, drawing people from rural areas with the promise of jobs. The nation transitioned from an agrarian society to an industrial one. The economy shifted gears, and the United States began to rise as a manufacturing behemoth, its products reaching across the globe. But it wasn't just factories and industries that were changing the face of America. The Industrial Revolution sparked a revolution in transportation as well. The construction of railroads crisscrossed the country, connecting regions and people in unprecedented ways and fueling economic growth. As the United States prospered domestically, its role on the global stage was also evolving. The turn of the century saw the nation involved in World War I. Although late to join the conflict, the United States played a pivotal role in the Allied victory. This involvement in the Great War marked the beginning of the country's journey towards becoming a global military power. But it was the Second World War that truly thrust the United States onto the world stage as a superpower. Again, entering late into the conflict, the United States provided crucial support to the Allies, both in terms of military might and industrial strength. The war effort mobilized the country's industries, further bolstering its economic power. The aftermath of World War II saw a drastically changed global landscape. Many of the old powers were left devastated, both physically and economically, by the ravages of war. In contrast, the United States emerged relatively unscathed and economically stronger than ever. It was in this post-war era that the United States truly ascended to its role as a global leader. The World Wars marked a significant shift in global power, with the United States emerging as a global leader. This era set the stage for the United States' continued dominance in the world, a position it still holds today. In the aftermath of the World Wars, the United States faced new challenges both at home and abroad. As the dust settled on the battlefields of World War II, a new global order began to take shape. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, setting the stage for a prolonged period of geopolitical tension known as the Cold War. This era was marked by a series of high-stakes conflicts and crises. One of the most significant was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, where the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. The United States, under President Kennedy's leadership, managed to negotiate a peaceful resolution, averting a catastrophic conflict. The Vietnam War was another significant event during the Cold War era. It was a grueling and controversial conflict that sparked widespread protest and dissent within the United States. The war's aftermath led to a shift in American foreign policy with a greater emphasis on diplomacy and international cooperation. While the Cold War raged on the international front, the United States was also grappling with social and political upheaval at home. During the 1960s, the civil rights movement gained momentum, challenging systemic racial discrimination and inequality. Activists like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks became symbols of resistance, inspiring millions to join the fight for equal rights. The struggle culminated in the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed racial discrimination in public places and employment. The civil rights movement didn't stop at racial equality. It sparked a broader push for social justice, inspiring movements for women's rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and more. In summary, the era of the Cold War and the civil rights movement was a time of significant change and upheaval for the United States. It was a period marked by tension and conflict, but also by progress and transformation. These events reshaped the country's domestic and foreign policies, leaving a lasting impact. The echoes of these events can still be felt today as they continue to shape the nation's identity and role in the world. The United States continues to evolve and adapt to new challenges and opportunities. These words ring true, especially when we look at recent events that have shaped the nation's trajectory. The turn of the 21st century was marked by a series of pivotal moments that changed the course of American history. The September 11th attacks, a horrific act of violence, shook the nation to its core. They sparked the War on Terror, a global campaign led by the United States, which has had far-reaching implications, not just for America, but for the world at large. In the aftermath of these events, the US found itself grappling with new realities. The country faced an economic recession, a downturn that affected millions of Americans and reverberated across the globe. It was a time of uncertainty, but also a time of resilience as the nation worked to rebuild and recover. Then came the digital revolution. As technology advanced at a rapid pace, the US emerged as a leader in innovation. The rise of Silicon Valley, the growth of the internet, and the advent of social media transformed the way we live, work, and communicate. Moving forward, the United States stands on the threshold of a future that promises to be as dynamic and unpredictable as its past. Challenges abound, from climate change to income inequality, from cybersecurity threats to geopolitical tensions. But opportunities also lie ahead. In the global context, the United States remains a key player. Its economic strength, military prowess, and cultural influence are significant. The nation's future is intertwined with the world's future, and its actions will continue to shape global events. The United States is a tapestry woven from the threads of its history, its triumphs and trials, its victories and defeats. It's a nation that continues to reinvent itself, to push boundaries, and to strive for a better tomorrow. As we look towards the future, the United States remains a significant player on the global stage, with its history shaping its present and future. So, we've journeyed through the rich and diverse history of the United States. We've traversed the era of first contact, a time of discovery and exploration. We've witnessed the birth of a nation through the Revolutionary War and its struggle for unity during the Civil War and Reconstruction. We've seen the country's transformative power during the Industrial Revolution and its influence during the World Wars. We've delved into the tension of the Cold War and the fight for equality during the Civil Rights Movement. And finally, we've explored the modern era and looked towards the future. Each period, each event has been a stepping stone, shaping the United States into the powerhouse it is today. The story of the United States is one of resilience and innovation, of unity and diversity, and the relentless pursuit of progress. In understanding its past, we can appreciate the present and anticipate the future of this great nation.